Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing this morning? I'm a little bit late. I had to return a rental car, and I'm just tired. What are you guys up to? How are you? Drinking coffee. I'm a little slow today. Like the sort of what's going on in the world has just really started to sink in for me, and I'm sure for you guys as well. How are you feeling about it today? It's a lot, honestly, to think about. It is a lot to think about. And I have, look, I'm not like, oh my gosh, woe is me, but there's a lot on the line here. And there's a lot of misconceptions. Here's the thing that bothers me the most. It's just sort of, we're going to talk about that a lot too. Is this sort of what led up to this and what this could mean for the world, for the culture, really a lot for people who are in underserved communities and women. What this could mean or what this does mean for women, all right? So welcome to, we went blurry. Let me fix that for you. I don't know why my camera does that. It's the iPhone camera that does that. Anyway, so now we should not be blurry now. But I'll see what's going on. I don't know why the iPhone camera does that. So I'll just leave it here. We'll stay here. We won't worry about that other camera on top, or the webcam rather. So why it is that, this happened, what it means for women, what it means for people of color, what it means for you, what it means for the people who voted for him, what it means for the people who did not vote for him, what it means for all those groups, because it's not all, as joyful as you might think it is. It's not as joyful as you might think it is. Okay. So let's discuss that now. There are people who believe, and I've been hearing, oh my gosh, this has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with race. You're out of your mind. This has nothing to do with misogyny or sexism. Nothing to do with that. You're out of your mind. We live in America. We live in America, and America is a racist, sexist country. Not everybody, don't get me wrong, because everyone says that, but we have a legacy of racism in this country that still prevails from the time of slavery, really before then, from the time that the colonizers came over and really stole the land away. That is the beginning of this country as it is. Okay? Teresa Marlene, I like that. Look at our new things. It's different. Whiteness on display. It is everything to do with race, says Maya. Yes, 344. Okay, so here it goes. I'm going to play this. You tell me if you feel a certain kind of way about it, because I certainly feel a certain kind of way about it. Sorry, I'm a little bit sleepy this morning, but I certainly feel a certain kind of way about it. So here it is. Watch.
What's up? I've been watching people on MSNBC try to figure out why Kamala Harris lost the election, as if that question has no answer. And it's interesting that they'll only ask people who voted for Kamala Harris, why did anybody vote for Donald Trump? Here's a thought. Maybe ask somebody who voted for Donald Trump why they did. And you're going to find out it has nothing to do with racism or sexism. It had to do with the fact that people are very unhappy with the economy and want to change in their life. So when they ask Kamala Harris, what would you do differently than Joe Biden? And her answer is not a thing. That will lose you the election. Secondly, when North Carolina gets drilled with one of the worst hurricanes on record, and you tweet that you're going to send $174 million to people in Lebanon and give $700 to the people of North Carolina, that makes people hate you. And it makes people start realizing you've abandoned them and you're not going to help them. So if you want to keep blaming everything on racism and sexism, you're going to continue to lose every election because you refuse to understand the American people. They don't care about transgenderism. They don't care about all the things you're trying to shove down their throat. They don't care about Trump's morality. They wanted a change, and you refused to provide the change. That's why Trump won, and that's why Kamala lost.
Okay, so what do you guys think of that? Okay, so you've got now look, some of that may be true, but look, he is delusional. Let's just be honest. I'm not sure anyone could have won, because when people want the cult leader, they want the cult leader. And part of what is baked into the cult leader is the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, all of those things. That's baked in. And there's no like, oh my gosh, this is this is an opinion. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. So, let's think about what he said. He talked about the money going to other places, to Lebanon or whatever. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. There are many different parts of our government that sends out money, that issues money. When you spoke to the folks who are on the ground in those regions where the hurricanes were, many of them Republican governors and lawmakers, we're getting everything that we can get from the Biden administration, from the federal government. They're helping us out as much as possible. But instead, because of someone like him who is, has been co-opted, and he's fallen prey and victim to the MAGA cult brain and to the internet brain, he can say that. He actually believes that. I believe at some level they know it is not true. Now, I'm not saying that was for the entire reason. He does have a point about the economy. That's important. But as Vanika Stubbs says, the basis of his entire campaign was racist. So all of the people, I'm not saying that all of our country or the people who voted for him, all of them are racist, but they are voting for the person and the MAGA cult who supports racism or sexism. Tori Harvest says there is some truth to that, but the underlying issue is racism and sexism. Yes, I agree. There is some truth to that, but the underlying issue is racism and sexism, and we should not pretend otherwise. You have to call a thing a thing. Case in point. Okay. Now I want you to be prepared for this, because this is perhaps the most vile of it all, but this is the truth. Remember, reproductive rights were on the line, and I'm sure people are going to say, oh, they over-index on reproductive rights. Reproductive rights was a real thing. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, the economy is important. But that's the easy thing that people will say. Oh, it's the economy. All right, what else are you going to say, right? The economy was a real issue. The border was a real issue. The policies overall. What policies? I don't know. The economy is not a policy. What policies about the economy? What incentives do you want him to? What regulations? What would you like him to do? If you're going to talk about policy, let's talk about policy. Let's talk about exactly the issue. So this is let me play this for you. Okay. And then I'll play for you why I know that the gentleman who had played before, is wrong in his assessment that race and ethnicity and gender, that it had nothing to do with it. Okay. So this is Hassan Piker. And I thought I had played this for you guys a while ago. Because I think Hassan makes a very good point here. And I've been telling you guys the same thing about this bro culture, about what happens in these spaces, especially these digital spaces that we're in, on social media, streamers, and the like. Here's Hassan Piker telling you where these young people, men mostly, and some women, where they're getting, mostly white men and some women, where they're getting their information and how they're being co-opted by right-wing ideology and talking points, and they don't even realize it. Here it is.
A massive amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Everything is completely dominated by right-wing politics. If you're a dude under the age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center right to, I wouldn't say far right in the same way that it was back in the 2016 era at the end of Obama's administration, but definitely center right to Trumpian right, openly Trump right, not genuinely neo-Nazi. That part is quieted down a little bit, but they're 90% of the way there for the most part. And that's it. Everything that they see is right-wing sentiment being expressed by individuals that they find charismatic, thought leaders, influencers that they subscribe to. And I think that that is some of the reason why you see this movement.
So I agree. That's why you see this movement. He's 100% right. Whether folks want to believe it or realize it or not, whether you want to admit to it, he's 100% right. You know how I know? Because I'm in those spaces. I go on those podcasts. I know some of those folks or people who are connected to those people. We know these things. And that's where they're getting their information. Why do you think Donald Trump is going on Joe Rogan? Why do you think Donald Trump is doing podcasts with the Nelk Boys? I've been on the Nelk Boys podcast. Why do you think he's calling them out in his acceptance speech? In his victory speech? Why do you think he's like mentioning them? He's name checking them. The other kid, I forget who the kid is who gave him the Cybertruck. Why do you think he's calling out Musk and all of those folks? Have you been on Twitter lately? We're going to talk to I'm going to show you someone who has been on and what he has to say about it. So I want you to sit back and get ready to listen to this because, again, you know, according to this gentleman, it has nothing to do with sexism or racism. Yet, this is the sentiment that is online, and you see a lot of it, okay? Here's Nick Fuentes. Ladies, listen, please.
The feel
Everyone.
when you're totally not pressed. The feel when we control your bodies. Hey, bitch, we control your bodies. Guess what? Guys win again, okay? Men win again. And yes, we control your bodies. Hi, I'm your Republican congressman. Hi, I'm your Republican congressman. It's your body, my choice. And men, women again. Men win again. There will never, ever be a female president. Never. There will never be a female president, ever. It's over. Glass ceiling. Dude, it's a ceiling made of fucking bricks. You will never break it. Your stupid face keeps hitting the brick ceiling. We will keep you down forever. You will never control your own bodies. You will never be the president of the global empire. Never gonna happen, sweetie. Your body, our choice.
What does that say to you? But that is not sexist. That has nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. So spare me that whole thing, right? Spare me that whole thing about has nothing to do with whatever. You are naive if you believe that. That is the height of privilege. That is the height of privilege if you don't understand that living in America. Why do you think women are so upset? Why do you think minorities are so upset? Why do you think members of the LGBTQ are so upset? Why do you think black folks, minorities, black and brown folks, why do you think immigrants are so concerned and upset? Because they are, that has nothing to do with you, man, in the beginning of this. That doesn't apply to you because you don't have to deal with it. It's not an issue for you because you don't have to deal with it. Because you're a white male. Let's just be honest. That's the height of entitlement to say it has nothing to do with that and blame her, whatever. The thing would be, why do you think he would, he would have, why doesn't Donald Trump appeal to certain groups and demographics? Even Republicans. Why did traditional Republicans back away from him? And the answer might be because of rhetoric like this. But yet and still, blah, 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 blah. Debbie Navarro says that guy's disgusting. Yes, but there are a lot of him out there. So don't get it twisted when you think, oh my gosh, this guy's an anomaly. He's not. Now, there is a meme going around the internet. It's not just a meme. It's also folks getting texts, folks getting DMs from people, especially it's usually people of color who are getting these in their inboxes, whether it be on their cell phones or in their social media, about slaves and buying people, etc. Now, I want you to listen to this again because this is happening. Watch this.
Yep. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? It has already started. My God, today. They're playing on people's phones. This was sent to my child, to my daughter, Jayla. Let me tell you something. I've tried to calm myself down at least 50 times to make this video, trying to research this number and backtrack this number to find an address. I'm not playing around with y'all. I don't care if it's a bot. I don't care if it's a scam. I don't care if it's a racist. I don't care if it was sent as a joke. Nothing is funny. Do you hear me? I'm not playing around with you all. Y'all gonna let that orange man going into that White House get you put in red dirt. I'm not playing. I assemble weapons with my eyes closed. Now, I already told you that the military doesn't untrain you when they release you. They just release you back into civilization, honey. I'm not playing around with you all. When it comes to my children, don't ever let it come to my children. I told you all. It is who he empowers, who he emboldens to do stuff like this. I'm not playing around with you all. I don't have the time. Okay? Today is not the day. I forgot I had a home health appointment today. The nurse get here at noon. My blood pressure is sky high. I've never had high blood pressure in my 43 years. Migraine forming in the back of my head, losing my vision today. I don't have time. Okay? Play with somebody else. Matter of fact, play in traffic.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, Don's internet went out, but he should be back shortly. And I know that what we just played was pretty upsetting, and basically an indication as to how much this very much was related to racism and sexism. There are a few others that have been making their rounds in the news cycle talking about why they believe this might have happened. But I do think that a lot of people are denying the underlying fact that, yes, racism and sexism are very much involved here. But here we have Chris Hayes on his opinion.
Question of why it happened and what comes next. And I do actually think it's really important to be as clear-eyed as possible about why it happened and what happened. Donald Trump won a majority of votes in the Electoral College, and for the first time in his 3 presidential runs, he appears poised to win the national popular vote. But if you look at why he won, I also think it's clear it was primarily the driver, a rejection of the status quo in a period where many voters feel alienated from their leaders and squeezed by high prices.
Hi, Nikki.
The right track, wrong track numbers were 2-to-1, people saying the country's on the wrong track. And here's the thing that's really important. They feel that way across the Western world, where incumbent parties, left, right, and center, have met the exact same electoral fate post-COVID in an era of exploding inflation that no one had experienced in 30 years. This was an election defined by a rejection of a status quo that big majorities did not like, even people that voted for Kamala Harris.
Hi, Nikki. I can't hear you.
I got you. There we go.
Are we back on the air now?
You are back up. I was just showing some other perspectives of why the people think this is happening.
Which one did you show? You showed
Chris Hayes talking about how people are unhappy with where things are. And again, not pointing out the major fact that racism and sexism were very much factors here.
Was this a Joe Biden one or the what happened?
No, this was Chris Hayes on why it happened.
Oh, that was Chris Christie. Yes. Why? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So did you guys finish watching that lady? I don't know if you
We
finished.
did.
Okay. So
but I'm gonna hop off and let you take the reins.
Nikki, you're the best. Thank you. Producer Nikki, what would we do without her? If it goes out again, we may have to go back to producer Nikki. So so Chris Hayes on why this happened. We talked about a lot of governments. Yeah, okay, yeah, I get that. A lot of governments, but America usually leads on this stuff, right? America is usually the leader, and we decide where the rest of the world goes. Usually the rest of the world doesn't get to decide where we go. But apparently that is happening right now. So I want to continue on with what I was talking about, which is these sort of right-wing crazies that are contributing to what's going on. Okay, so you saw the woman, saying, "Hey, listen, this is about slaves or whatever." I think that's the Cotton text, I believe, that was run there. Okay. So that's what's happening with the sort of right-wing bro sphere and the sentiment overall. Now, speaking of that, right? This is a man who said that he's leaving a certain social media platform because of the toxicity that I mentioned and that I spoke about. Okay, listen to this.
I said that I would be leaving Twitter within the next 24 hours, but I'm leaving. I can't say anymore. There's no more to say. There's nothing else to say. We lost both houses and the White House and America. Do you know how many people he's going to pardon now? It's just, there's no stopping him. There's no stopping him. And frankly, I'm afraid to stay here. I'm almost 80 years old. I've been fighting since 2017. For what? I actually thought people with live, active brain cells would win. Women would win. And we lost. We lost to the dumb fucks. I love every one of you out there. You've been part of my life. And I'm going to miss it. And you take care of yourselves, all of you.
So that's the thing that this man is talking about. Look, it's not as ominous as it sounds. He's not, he's not taking his life or anything. It kind of sounds that way, but no, he's leaving social media. He's like, I can't deal with this. I can't do this anymore. And I can certainly understand why. And so I believe that if you need self-care, because I know some people are so really upset about this. For me, I'm not that upset. I am going to be fine. I'm not really concerned about my own station, my own place. I'll be fine. Right. Am I perhaps a target? Yes, but I'm a big boy. I've gone through this before, but I know other people don't feel safe. We had the trans woman who was out the other night when we were in Washington, D.C. before the election. She said, I'm concerned, I'm afraid, especially for people who don't deem me to be human beings. We had the whole trans thing that is really not that, it doesn't affect that many people in our culture, in our society, but it has been used and people are concerned about it. It has become a really big deal for a lot of people. But honestly, many people are upset about men competing in women's sports or trans people competing in women's sports. If you're a trans woman or trans man, people are concerned about that. They don't think that it's fair. They really do. That is a big issue for people that the Republicans or the MAGA folks really honed in on. The whole LGBTQ issue, if you live in a bubble in a big city in a progressive place where people are accepting, then you don't see this whole thing. You don't see the mess and the concern of people about folks being gay. I ran into it time and time and time again when we were across the country, the trans issue and the gay issue. I don't think it's right. My God tells me this. The Bible tells me this. My faith tells me this. You can't be gay. Or you shouldn't be paying for transgender prisoners or whatever to get sex changes. My money should not be going to that. Even though it's a Trump era policy, they put that on Kamala Harris. Okay? That's what they believe. Now, I want to show you this, okay? Because I say that because put this up. This is the LGBT youth suicide prevention groups. They saw an increase in calls. So this is a concern for folks. The LGBT suicide prevention hotline or groups saw an increase of calls. This is from Kyle Griffin, who is a legitimate reporter. The LGBT Youth Prevention and Crisis Intervention Group, the Trevor Project, said in a statement it had approximately 125% increase in crisis contact volume on election day through Wednesday morning compared to typical days. So this is a big deal for people. Because people think like, oh my gosh, Trump is not going to take your rights away as an LGBTQ person. That is not true. That has already happened during the first administration with restrictions for trans folks and for members of the LGBTQ community. So that's a concern. You want to see who voted in this election. Again, for this man to say it has nothing to do with sexism or racism or any of those things, this is what it had to do with. Okay, not exactly true. Let's look at the exit polling for gender. This is a gender exit polling in this election. Okay, who voted for whom in this election? Look at this. So gender, race, 4 categories. Now here we go. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, nothing to do with that. If you look at white men, 57% of white men voted for Donald Trump. Yet nothing to do with race, right? White women, 51%. As I said, if it doesn't apply to you, right, if you don't experience it, then it's not an issue for you, so you don't believe that it is happening. That is what we call privilege. That is what we call entitlement. Now, all of these other groups, right, and I'm going to explain to you the Latino men one. I didn't explain to that. Someone explained it to me last night, okay? But look at black men. Even black men, 23% voted for Trump. What is that? That is not just the male thing, the sexism, the misogyny thing has a lot to do with that 23%, whether they know it or not. And as I'm speaking to people, people who know about these things, they'll say, well, no one is ever going to say in a survey that, well, some people will, but few people will ever admit in a survey that they're not voting for someone because they're a woman or because of their color. They're going to say just the opposite, when there are a whole myriad of factors that's preventing them from voting for a person of color or a woman that they're not even aware of. Cultural conditioning, unconscious bias, all of those things. So men of all different ethnicities fall victim to unconscious bias about women, where women should be, what their station should be. Women should be in the household. The man should be the head of the household. The woman should walk behind the man. They're concerned that women are taking their jobs and their positions in society. They're concerned that women don't need them. Women are making more money than men in the society. Women are more educated generally than men in the society. Black women are the most educated demographic in American society. All of those things are in folks' psyche and subconscious, and they may not even realize it. Not enough showed up and out. That is true. But look at these demographics. So for black men, number one for black men, yes, I'm getting to that. Toro Verde says his voters vote solely for themselves, not for community. So black men fall victim to the aspirational aspect of a Donald Trump. They want to be like him. They want to be, billionaires, so to speak. I don't know if he's really a billionaire, but that's what they want. They want to fly around on the plane. I'm generalizing here, right? But for a big part of that group, it is aspirational. Look at the culture. They want to be just like their white male counterparts. They want the same privilege. They desire that. They think that it is somehow going to be available to them, or they're resentful that it's not available to them. So then they resent women for that, instead of the people who are actually preventing them from that, which is the 57 and the 51% of white men and women who are voting for Donald Trump, not the 9% or the 88% of black women who are voting for Kamala Harris. Now let's get to look at this. So this guy has nothing to do with race. Well, for people who have been oppressed and people who have been marginalized, it has a lot to do with race. 73% of black men. Can we put that back up, please? 73% of black men. People who have traditionally in America been oppressed and marginalized, people who are not necessarily immigrants to this country, but people who were immigrated or brought here against their will. Black men and black women. Black men for Harris, 73%. Black women for Harris, 88%. Latino men, even though 45%, which is a surprising number, voted for Donald Trump, 51%, the majority voted for Harris. People who are traditionally discriminated against in this society. Latino women, 60%. And then there are all others, right? Including Asians and on and on. People who are traditionally discriminated against in society. So I explained the black men thing. Black women, you don't have to explain. They get it. Black women get it. They're constantly saving America. They get it. Black women get it, right? Latino men. Now, let me explain this to you. It has a lot to do with work, right? They come when Trump said the whole black jobs thing, which was true, but which was not true. But there's always like there's always a kernel of truth in there, which I think is why he is a smart politician and a smart marketer and a smart messenger. Okay. So if you look at the work, right? If you are an immigrant who came to this country legally, think about it, legally or illegally, and you have set a certain goal for yourself as it relates to what you're going to work, how much you're going to work for. Now, I'm just going to give you, this is one demographic, one part of the immigrant community. Okay, so someone explained this to me last night because I didn't get it. Because I asked yesterday, and we had this conversation, why do immigrants feel that way about immigration? Why are they voting for these folks? Because they come in legally for the most part, or illegally, and they want to shut the door behind them. They come in and American privilege, right? Living in America. It's the best country on earth, right? The land of opportunity. They come in and they want the opportunity just to be for them. We've come in, we're here legally, and so you should come in, and unless you have to come in the way that I come in, right? If you come in another way, it's not fair because then you're a competition for us. Now hold on to that competition thing. So here's what happens to a certain demographic. Now I'm just being real here, okay? Think about the town or the city or the municipality or whatever it is that you live. Now, I don't know if you guys have day workers where you live, but I think most towns do. If you go by the Home Depot, if you go wherever, by the Lowe's or whatever, the parking lots or any of these things. When I lived in Atlanta, there was a Home Depot. Wherever it is that you live, you will see these day laborers out there. Most of them are Latino day laborers. Most of them are what? They're immigrants, right? And so usually the folks so that they are not undercut, so that they have a certain level of the money that they want to make that day, whether it's day labor or in other businesses, they get together and they form these sort of informal unions. All right. So go with me on this, right? And I'm just talking about it's not everyone, but this is a big aspect of it. Okay. And so they form these unions where they'll say, for example, if someone is a day laborer, if they come to you, you tell them $200 and we won't go any lower than that. And so they'll go around to everyone, hey, how much today to help us, lay bricks or to do this or to do that or do that. whether it is that you're legal or illegal, it's still a day worker, a day laborer, so that they don't undercut each other and they get a certain amount of money so that they know if they work, they're going to make that amount of money. Now, here's where the demonization and here's where why Latino men vote for Donald Trump because of immigration. The migrant who comes in won't play by those rules. They'll say $125. And I'll go do the labor for the day. I'll go help you with your plumbing. I'll go help you with your roofing. I'll go help you with your planting. I'll go help you with your, if you, whatever you need to, strawberries or whatever it is. So they have undercut the immigrant, legal or illegal immigrant. And so those guys don't want the migrants coming in, and that's why they're voting for Donald Trump. The illegal immigrant cannot vote, but those who are legal immigrants vote. So I'm trying to get you to understand why Latino men and women support Donald Trump. That is economic for them. So the legal immigrants who can vote, vote for Donald Trump. And even the illegal immigrant who cannot vote, they support Donald Trump because of that reason. You feel me? You are competition to me. That's what is happening. Also the same thing, aspirational. I live in a place where there are, look, the melting pot in New York City and in New York State, the melting pot. Lots of immigrants, lots of Latinos, very hardworking, great people, right? Friends with some like work, at my home, sometimes like, doing the lawn or whatever. These are legal folks. They work for the lawn service or whatever. They, some of them are attorneys in my community. Some of them have professional positions in my community, and they are conservative. They support Donald Trump because of that reason. Now, let me tell you the truth. The ones who have a higher education, the ones who have a professional sort of white collar jobs, don't feel this way about Donald Trump. They don't feel this way about MAGA. They don't feel this way about the Republican Party. They are mainly Democrats. But the ones who don't have as high of an education level, the ones who are doing service jobs, non-professional white collar jobs, MAGA, because of the competition, because of immigration. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? This is all real and all true. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is what it is. That is economics for them. So unless the Democratic Party understands that and starts messaging for that, and that goes over into the same thing for folks who are out there trying to feed their families, truck drivers, farmers, roof layers, white folks, other ethnicities, same thing. Those folks are coming over, those migrant folks, they believe that they're getting benefits that they don't deserve. They believe that they're getting jobs and taking jobs from other folks. And they have become competition in the workplace. They have become they believe that the migrants, again, this is not my belief. This is what they're telling. This is what I'm hearing. They believe that those folks who are the migrants, that they have become essentially like scabs for unions, right? You have this union, you have this amount, you have this that you set for yourself that you're going to make this amount of money. And then this person comes in as a migrant and they undercut you. And that's where they say you're stealing the jobs. Okay. Race and gender exit polling percentages. Let's put that up. Race and gender exit polling. So here we go. 4% total, right? If you look at this, this is the amount. Black men make up 4% of the country, the electorate, I should say, the folks who are voting. Black women make up 6%, Latino 4%, men, Latino women 6%, all other 6%. So if you look at how much these folks are contributing It's not as much as the 34% of white men and the 39% of white women. So if you are upset that Donald Trump has become president, then you need to blame white women and white men and not these other demographics. Now, these other demographics contributed because this election was on the margins, right? Andrew says, good breakdown, Don, got it. Think about it. Think about it when you see the day labor out there. Think about it when you see the folks out there working in your communities who may be immigrants. That is economics for them. They want to be able to afford homes, to be able to afford to put their families and their kids through school, to pay for their families. That's what they want. And so they're voting on economics, and they're voting on the border. They're voting on immigration because they don't want the competition to come in and undercut them, and therefore what? Hinder their ability to be able to become part of the American dream, which is to own a home and to have enough money to be able to do other things that are enjoyable in life, and to be able to live in freedom, free of crime, in America, land of opportunity. Think about it. That's what's important to them. Now, are Democrats paying enough attention to that? Whether that's real or not, are Democrats serving those people, reaching out to those folks? Now, look at, so again, as I tell you, this election was won on the margins, right? So all of these demographics mattered, but if you really want to know who supported, and you really want to say it's not about race, that's a bold-faced lie, because look at the difference between how white people voted and how all other minority groups voted. The white people don't care about the racism and all of the isms. They don't care about that for the most part, because it doesn't affect them. And even if they do care about it, they say, okay, well, they can compartmentalize it in a way that minorities cannot, especially Black people. You can't compartmentalize it that way. You cannot. You cannot do it. It's harder. It's harder for a woman to compartmentalize sexism or misogyny. It's harder for a Black person or a brown person to compartmentalize racism. But if you're white, you can, because you're not affected by it on a daily basis, except if you hear someone talking about it. Therefore, it becomes a complaint to you, and you don't want to hear about it. You're like, oh my God, it's not that. Look at what's happening to me. I'm having to pay all of these things because of these people. And so they're saying it's racism, but it's not. I'm having to pay higher for this. I'm having to foot the bill for this. When in actuality, there are many people, immigrants, who are contributing to the tax system, to the healthcare system, and they get no benefits out of it because they're not American citizens yet. They can't even vote. Let's look at the vote share, okay? The vote share. This one's hard. If you can full screen it for me, it would be great. This one's hard because this is the vote share in America. And it's kind of hard to see, right? By individual election, rise and fall vote share of governing parties in the national elections, right? For the first time, according to Derek Thompson on, I believe this is X, since World War II, every governing party facing election in a developed country this year lost vote share via J. Murdoch. 2024 Democrats are the red dot, absolutely critical context in any postmortem. That is what Chris Hayes was pointing out. Thank you for putting that up. That is what Chris Hayes was pointing out. That if you look at, especially by country and whatever, most incumbent governments were voted out. And most governments are, quite frankly, in Europe and beyond, are moving to the right. And America did the same thing. America moved to the right. Chris Hayes pointed that out. You heard that. Are Democrats to blame for their own loss? Partly, I agree. I talked to you about Democratic messaging, whether you want to believe it or not. That doesn't mean that, I'm saying that Democrats are bad, but I think they need to be better messengers. I think they need to pay more attention to all of those things, whether you agree with it or not. The working class people, the immigrant in this country, legal or illegal immigrants, how they feel. because someday those illegal immigrants may end up, or will probably end up becoming citizens if they are not deported in this mass deportation that Donald Trump has promised as soon as he gets into office. Because even those illegal folks affect the economy and affect how American citizens, working class American citizens, feel about the economy in the country. So Democrats need to pay attention to that. Now, you know, you can't say that none of it's my fault, right? Whenever there's a loss or whenever there's something in your life that did not turn out the way that you wanted to turn out, you can't always, but it's many times it's other people's fault, right? It's not your fault. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But many times it is your fault. And you have to say, well, how did I contribute to that? What did I do? How did Democrats contribute to it? Well, in this postmortem, a lot of folks are saying Kamala Harris and Democrats were put in a bad position by the person at the top, and that's Joe Biden. And I know you guys love Joe Biden, but Joe Biden said that he was going to be a transitional figure, transition and transformational, which led people to believe that he was going to do just one term, perhaps, because he really did not want to run until he heard the Charlottesville thing and on and on. He was fighting for the soul of America. And then, by some folks' estimation, he wanted to hold on to power. Or maybe he truly believed that he was the only person that could beat Donald Trump. And by the way, he is the only person that has beaten Donald Trump. This is what Chris Christie believes happened to Democrats, that Joe Biden, his belief, put the Democrats in a terrible position, in a terrible place. And the reason that they're where they are today, or what happened, is in large part due to Joe Biden. Here it is.
Promised to the American people when I was sitting in this seat 4 years ago.
Can you back it up? I want to hear.
I am a trans. Joe Biden made a promise to the American people when I was sitting in this seat 4 years ago. He said, I am a transitional figure. The implication of that, David, was that he was going to serve one term because of his age, and he was going to move on. And when he broke that promise, he did two things. One, he broke faith with the people who voted for him. And two, he put his party in an awful position to where they had to replace him when he put on one of the worst debate performances in presidential history, if not the worst. And so Kamala Harris had to inherit all of that. Like it or not, that's what she had to inherit, and she had to overcome it. And it appears, at least tonight, that she's not going to be able to do that. So every candidate deserves some measure of blame anytime there's a loss. But I would say this, that Joe Biden should be looking in the mirror tonight and thinking about what did he do? What did his lack of keeping his word on that central promise from 2020 do to this election tonight?
So what do you guys think of that? Do you believe that? That had Joe Biden said, hey, I'm only going to do one term, and that Democrats would have had more runway and a chance to really put someone out there who is vetted. They're saying that it starts from the top, and that in many ways it is Joe Biden's fault that this happened. We shouldn't blame anyone. It doesn't help. We need to find better solutions. That's right, Harmony. But the thing is, when you're finding better solutions, part of it, I have to agree with Chris Christie, says Rich, AKA Belmar Beagle. Part of doing a postmortem and figuring out what went wrong, part of that is assessing what happened and what could have been done better, how it could have been done better, and who and what is to blame. If you don't figure out in these times who and what's to blame, then you will never fix it. So I cannot agree with you that we have to start looking forward, that Democrats have to just start looking forward in order to move forward. You can't just look forward for that. You got to assess what happened. And part of what happened, again, is maybe Joe Biden was in there for too long. Christie was on point, but Kamala is still a black woman in America, wasn't going to allow it, says Nicole Miller. Yeah, those are two. You can have those two thoughts, and I believe that you do. So one can be that Joe Biden stayed in too long, or perhaps he should have made a different decision. And the other could be that there is sexism in America and there's racism in America. And to pretend otherwise, it would be foolish. Thank you, Belly B. I appreciate it. You're supporting independent media. The immigration experience is not the same for everyone. Cubans get amnesty and a path to citizenship. That's why they voted red. Yes. Deportation doesn't affect them. Puerto Ricans are American citizens. Correct. 100%. Puerto Ricans are American citizens, and you're right about Cubans. Cubans are historically conservative and have supported the Republican Party forever. Because of that, they call it wet foot, dry foot. You come over and what? You are fine. You don't have the same constraints as someone who comes across the border. And so Cubans feel, in many ways, I'm just saying what other folks feel. I'm not saying this is what I believe, this is what I've been told. Cubans feel that they are white. And so they identify as sort of white Latinos. If you're in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what even my Latino friends tell me. And they tell me they don't understand what a white Latino is, but that's what some Cubans believe that they are. The same as some Dominicans will believe that they're not Black. Okay? That's what they believe. And so you're right about that. But again, at the end of the day, the comment that you made, it's really still whether you are Puerto Rican or whatever, it's still about economics. And you see some of these immigrants, and this goes for Black folks, but for Puerto Ricans as well. Remember, Puerto Ricans also feel they have an affinity for the island of Puerto Rico, which is part of the United States territory, which makes them citizens. But there's some degree of, my culture is a bit different because I'm Latino, even though I am, an American citizen. They still speak Spanish, right? And so to some degree, because you may not look at a Puerto Rican and go, as Puerto Rican, you may think that they are, some people wrongly think that they are immigrants to this country. So they may feel a certain kind of way about that. But really, it's all about economics. So Belly B, you're right. Puerto Ricans are American citizens. We know that. Deportation doesn't affect them. We know that. Thank you, though, for pointing that out. It's important to point out. Okay, so that's what Chris Christie says about Joe Biden. You tell me how you feel about that. Okay? So on the sexism thing, listen to Chris Matthews, formerly of MSNBC. He's now doing a contributor to another network. But he says, a woman can only win if she is a more conservative Democrat. Here it is. Tell me if you agree.
If we're going to get a woman elected president, and we can do this in the generic terms now because it is going to be generic from now on, I think it might have to be a more conservative Democrat. A more conservative Republican. I think like Margaret Thatcher and Merkel and people like that, and maybe Hillary was right. She had to be a little tougher on war issues because if you're going to run as a woman, all three strikes can't be against you. Woman of color, that you're a woman, and that you're weak on defense or weak on spending. The Democrats have got to stop all this spending. I mean, my wife loves to argue. She's a big Democrat. And she says, the economy's in great shape. I said, yeah, because the more government spends money, the more it does, the more it jacks up prices. It just does. Yeah. That's what you do during a recession. You spend more money. If you spend more money, the prices of things go up. And that's a fact. And the Democrats never addressed that. They just went right past the graveyard and said, oh, no, we don't know how this inflation came to be. I don't understand that. Yeah. We don't understand the border price. Yes, we do understand the border problem. As a guy said to me, why does the little man love his country? Because it's all he's got. And if you're down in the dumps and you see your country being overrun from people from another country who just decide to come in for economic reasons, you're going to get mad about that. You say, wait a minute, the only thing I got is my country. Yeah. That's all I got.
And you live in Philly or you live in Washington, D.C., and you've got police forces that can't keep cops on the force right now. And over the past 3-4 years, crime has been everywhere in those cities. That also has an impact.
Yeah. So there you go. Again, are Democrats paying attention? Now, I want to, since Belly B brought this up, and I think it's a really important issue. By the way, we're waiting for Joe Biden, the former president. Joe Biden is going to speak in just a short time on the transition. And we're going to bring that to you live. So don't worry about it. We'll bring it to you as soon as President Biden begins to speak. But I just want to say this. This is about also, that makes the point about a couple points here where we talked about where these sort of young men are getting their information, because it's not news, it's information because it doesn't have to be fact-based, right? And also why it is important for folks they believe to come in, when they come in, that they want to shut the door behind them, and why immigration is an economic problem for them. There's even consternation about it in families, disagreements about it. This is a young lady saying that her brothers voted for Trump even after seeing, as young kids, their father get deported. Now watch this sort of cognitive dissonance. Watch.
Hey, my family's probably going to get mad at me for sharing this, but I truly don't care at this point. So in 2017, 2018, I can't remember exactly the year, but my brother was deported. He was an illegal immigrant for many, many years, but he was deported. On the day that he was taken by ICE, he was going to work with my brother. They worked together, I think. I can't remember exactly, but they were going to work together, and he had his kids in his car. So my nieces and nephews watched their dad get arrested and taken away by ICE. I'm not gonna say that my brother was perfect, because he wasn't. Like, none of us are. But he's not a bad person. So back to him getting deported. So this was, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018, but Trump was in office, right? So he gets deported. Some of my nieces and nephews have not seen their dad since he got deported. 2 of them are now able to vote. The 2 that voted literally voted for Trump. They voted for Trump. And I'm like so mind blown that that even happened, because they saw their dad get deported. They were traumatized from it. And for some reason, they find it okay for other people to go through that. I just don't get it.
Look, let me just tell you, as a man, let me just tell you, men are, for the most part, just dumb. I'm just telling, they're just dumb. I mean, like that should just be the answer sometimes. Men are just dumb. Men are like, they get into this bro thing, like, oh, bro, oh, shit, yeah, Junie, it's unbelievable. But men are just dumb. LOL, I can't, TC. And they don't really look at the nuances, and they sort of just lead with, the sort of Cro-Magnon, sort of like knuckle dragging. And I'm speaking as a man. They're just dumb. Women are much more cerebral in general. Women stand back and assess situations, and they're like, huh, that's interesting, or whatever. And you know why? I think part of that, I just believe women are the smarter sex. But I also believe because women have had to, in some ways, take a back seat, where they've had to sort of be an observer. And so they're able to assess things in smart and intelligent ways with context and wisdom that men are not, because men are always out front, and they can come up with the dumbest thing, and there's always like, yeah, bro, right. And their points always get across. They always, get to be the first person with the idea and whatever. When women are actually smarter, and they don't get that sort of privilege. Women are just, they get it. They're smart, and they realize that men are just, many times just dumb, easily manipulated. Way more easy. They're easier to be manipulated than women. So let's not forget that there's that aspect of it. Okay. I want to play my friend Sunny Hostin. I played her yesterday because she actually, I believe that, look, everybody there's been a lot of opinions from people who have talk shows or news shows or cultural figures, and they're talking about the election. And I believe that most of what folks are saying, and the women on The View and all that, what they're saying about, hey, this is the American process, we have to respect it. I agree with that. But also, you don't have to be blind to it, and you don't have to forget. You can forgive, you can be gracious, you can do all those things, but you don't forget. I don't forget. And I think Sunny is why she's just such a dear, smart, and she's always on top of it. Sunny is right about this. We have to accept the process, but we also have to remember what is at stake and what's at play here. Our eyes have to be open, and we can't fall for the okie doke. Here's Sunny Hostin on The View yesterday.
I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was "America Makes a Perilous Choice." I think that in 2016, we didn't.
Uh-oh. What happened? All right, we'll rewrite that clip.
Have
Can we
almost
try it again?
unfettered power. And so I really know. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was "America Makes a Perilous Choice." I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons. Well, and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. Mm-hmm. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Well, I think it.
Cultural resentment is a very kind way of saying that it was racism. She's not lying. Sunny, on point. Thank you, Sunny Hostin. I think she's right. David, thank you for your support of independent media. David says, to clarify, I voted for Kamala, but I wish Tim Walz were at the top of the ticket. He resonates with people. Kamala, not as much, just being honest. Thank you for that, David, but I have to disagree with that. I don't know if Tim Walz would have resonated as much as Kamala Harris or not. I'm not sure if they would put any Democrat at the top of the ticket, if they would have stood a chance against, or a better chance against Donald Trump. I just don't know. I mean, if you look at the messaging, if you look at the support that Donald Trump has had historically, if you look at the name recognition, if you look at the celebrity factor, if you look at any of those things, I'm not sure. Perhaps Josh Shapiro, who knows? But as we say, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But I have to disagree with you on that he had to be at the top of the ticket, especially when Kamala Harris is a sitting vice president, is a senator. He's a governor. He's a governor. So Sunny Hostin, thank you. Again, we're waiting on the president of the United States to come out, and we're going to bring that to you. So here's the thing. And I have some folks who are part of my friend circle, no one in my family circle did this, but I can understand, especially if you're a member of an underserved community, especially if you are Jacques Barber. Thank you for your support of independent media. The Dems have a bad habit of not speaking on their accomplishments until the election year. The other thing they need to call out Republicans for their lies, real-time receipts on their networks and podcasts. I agree with you. We had that conversation yesterday. I was speaking to even the folks who work with me, didn't understand when I was explaining to them on our ride home from Washington, D.C. about immigration and all those things. They're like, well, I never heard her say that. Because Democrats are bad at messaging. Kamala Harris kind of ran away from the border issue. She should have just leaned into it and said, look, I'm not going to do the same thing that Joe Biden. I will be president. I was constrained as vice president. I'm going to talk to you about some of that. I'm going to read some stuff to you in a bit. But if you're in a family, because many times the folks who go off to the big cities and they, do well and whatever, they become the breadwinner for their extended families and beyond, their immediate families and their extended families, even the breadwinners and the caretakers and the dads and rich uncles and aunts for their families who are back home supporting the MAGA movement and voting against their interests. And I can understand it's not for my family, but for in my friend group and people I know who I've been very generous with, I can understand where this man is coming from and how he feels right now. And now he's saying, you know what? I'm no longer going to be generous with my Trump supporting family. I'm no longer going to be generous with my Trump supporting extended family, I will say, and friends. Here it is.
My husband and I are New York City Democrats who actually benefit a lot.
Rewind it, please.
Tax plan. My husband and I are New York City Democrats who actually benefit a lot from Trump's 2017 tax plan. We still vote blue down the line. Don't get it twisted. With an exception to my sister, who's a blue dot in Tennessee, the rest of my family are Trump supporters. And I don't mean Republicans, I mean Trump supporters, AKA post the wildest shit you've ever seen before on Facebook. For the past decade, I've been really, really generous with my family to the point where I've paid for vacations, I have bought Nintendo Switches for my nephew, I even got the entire Airbnb so our family could spend Christmas last year together in Asheville, North Carolina. But I'm going to say this now, waking up on November 6, 2024, the bank is closed. With an exception to my sister in Tennessee, who I will continue to be generous with. And if you're somebody who is like getting all offended, like, wow, you seem like such a hateful person, I'm not a hateful person. I've been generous with my family that has voted against my rights for the past decade. I'm no longer funding the happiness of people who vote against my well-being. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to block them. It doesn't mean I'm going to cut them off. It doesn't mean I'm going to be mean or angry with them. It just means that I am no longer going to be proactively contributing to their happiness. I will continue to spoil the shit out of my sister, though. She is somebody who was a Republican up until about 8 years ago because she realized the Republican Party no longer represented Republican values. And if you think this video is crying liberal tears, I'm not crying liberal tears because you know what? You dumbasses just voted for me to get more rich. Oh, and good luck with those tariffs making the cost of goods cheaper. We'll see how that goes.
He's not lying. Good luck with those tariffs that make the cost of goods even more expensive, and you have to pay for it. The bank is closed, he said. Lenny Smith says, I don't blame him. Let me tell you, correct. He is so right, says Football Yassi. So let me tell you, it's true. What he's saying is 100% true. I can relate to it, not in the sense that people in my family, vote for MAGA, because they don't. I'm sure there may be some, folks in there, idiots who do. And I can call them that because they're my family. So, but there may be some who do. But I don't know about it. But as someone who, left this small town or whatever and moved to the big city and became successful, I understand what he's saying. You're like, hey, look, hey, family, I've done well. Let's go on a vacation. Let's rent a house somewhere. I got you. Let's go. We're going to fly into blah, 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 and we're going to spend a week together. I've done that. Many people have done that. Now, imagine if you were in that position, and a lot of folks are, especially, quite honestly, gay men and gay women, because we feel that we have to be overachievers in this society in order to be accepted, right? Even to feel like we're sort of fit in to this society. We have to be overachievers. So many times we go off and we do well, we make a lot of money, and then we end up paying for things. Or you go off and you become someone like you know, a Whoopi or a Sunny, you're on TV, you're making great money. You want your family to share in those things, and they can't always afford it if they're living in a smaller place, or they don't make as much money as you. They don't have the income that you do. Or you want, like, you know, your niece or nephew to have great Christmas presents, and they say, oh, I can't get the Nintendo. Can you? Do you know somebody? Blah, 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 blah. You got to pay extra. Can you help? And you go, okay, look, find the Nintendo somewhere. If you can't get it at the Walmart or whatever it is, and then I'll send you the dough. That happens. But guess what? If I had that in my family, the bank is closed. Think about all those things when you're voting against, as I say, when you are voting, it's not just for you. You're voting for other people as well. Your neighbors, your coworkers, your loved ones, the women in your life, you're voting for other folks as well. And this is what you're also voting for. This is what you're also voting for. You are voting to have people who support violence like this on January 6th. This is what you're voting for. Watch this.
Multiple capital injuries. Multiple capital injuries.
Hey, no weapons. Flagpole's a weapon. There was no weapons there. There were guns there, whatever. That's what happened in the Capitol. That's what the former president incited. Okay? You say, okay, he didn't. If you don't believe he incited, he did. But if you don't believe he incited that, here, stand by, everyone. Here is the president of the United States talking about the transition of power to the next administration.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. Good to see this cabinet and the staff together here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to see you all. Particularly good to see my granddaughter sitting in the front row here. Hi, Finn. How are you, honey? For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran. You know, the struggle for the soul of America since our very founding has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, protecting the very integrity of the election. Many of them are volunteers who do it simply out of love for their country. And as they did their duty as citizens, I will do my duty as president. I'll fulfill my oath, and I will honor the Constitution. On January 20th, we'll have a peaceful transfer of power here in America. To all our incredible staff, supporters, cabinet members, all the people who've been hanging out with me for the last 4 years, God love you, as my mother would say. Thank you so much. You put so much into the past 4 years. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. But don't forget all that we accomplished. It's been a historic presidency. Not because I'm president, because what we've done, what you've done. A presidency for all Americans. Much of the work we've done is already being felt by the American people, but the vast majority of it will not be felt over the next 10 years. We have legislation we passed that's just only now just really kicking in. We're going to see over $1 trillion worth of infrastructure work done, changing people's lives in rural communities and communities that are in real difficulty because it takes time to get it done. And so much more it's going to take time, but it's there. The road ahead is clear, assuming we sustain it. There's so much we can get done and will get done based on the way the legislation was passed. And it's truly historic. You know, we're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world. I know people are still hurting, but things are changing rapidly. Together, we've changed America for the better. Now we have 74 days to finish the term, our term. Let's make every day count. That's the responsibility we have to the American people. Look, folks, you all know it in your lives. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down, but the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith. I'm so proud to have worked with all of you. I really mean it. I sincerely mean it. God bless you all. God bless America. And may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I will always like Joe Biden. I will always like Joe Biden. And I think Joe Biden deserves those applause. I think Joe Biden is going to go down as one of the most consequential presidents in history, especially considering his just on accomplishments alone. Now, did you guys hear that? You may not want to agree with that, but it's true. We have the best economy in the world. We have an economy that was better than it was under Donald Trump. The only thing that is not better is the cost of goods, right? And then what folks are calling inflation, which is really the cost of goods. But the economy is better under Joe Biden than it was under Donald Trump. Donald Trump's economy not necessarily still alive. is below President Jimmy Carter. And everyone likes to say, Donald Trump is the best economy in the world. Why? Because people believe it. They believe it because of the messaging. Gas prices are down. Their gas prices are pretty low. They're back to the levels that they were during the pandemic. By the way, they were low because there was not the demand for it. But they're back to those levels. The only thing that's up is the cost of goods. The economy is soaring. The economy is soaring. But people don't believe that because what? Because what? Messaging. So I played before. By the way, the president, we will never have that sort of, at least for now, in the immediate future, we will never have that sort of rationality, that sort of, let's come together, let's support each other, let's love each other. You're not going to have that in the White House anytime soon. What you're going to have is, oh, God, these folks, what a nasty question. That's what you're going to have. That's what people are concerned and upset about. Rightfully so. But again, that's what America wanted. America, you get what you paid for, you get what you voted for. Now, I showed you January 6th, just before the President Joe Biden came out ensuring Americans that there will be a peaceful transition of power, that there will be no violence like January 6th of 2021. There's not going to be any violence like that. No violence like that. He doesn't want, but he's telling people we are going to have a peaceful transition of power. He is not saying the election was stolen. He is not crying or boo-hooing about, oh, woulda, shoulda, coulda. He's saying, look, you have setbacks. You lost this battle. This is what America does. We're about the peaceful transition of power. We abide by the Constitution. How refreshing. Do you ever think that you would hear that from Donald Trump? Never. Imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if Kamala Harris had won. Imagine how it'd be. It was stolen. We're going, oh my gosh. Many people fell for that BS. Here's also what you voted for. You voted for what? For those folks who broke into the Capitol, for them to be pardoned and many of them not to face any consequences. Right? For people who broke the law. Now imagine these folks doing the same thing for other folks who broke the law, especially brown and black people. Would they be so generous? Because these people are going to be pardoned, right? And also you're voting for someone, a criminal, a convicted criminal, to be president of the United States and not to face any prosecution or jail time. Basically, to get off the hook. Would you do that with any other person, any other demographic? This is what you paid for. The Fox News saying the DOJ is going to be dropping the case against Donald Trump. This is what you voted for, folks. This is where America is.
News about Special Counsel Jack Smith, this man right here. Donald Trump said recently that he would fire Jack Smith, quote, within 2 seconds of taking office. Well, we found out that he may not have that opportunity. The reason is that the Department of Justice, where Jack Smith works, cannot prosecute a sitting president. Fox News is told that Jack Smith will be gone from his post as special counsel, meaning the cases will be gone before Trump takes the oath of office at noon on January 20th. This is the documents case, though that was dropped already by Judge Eileen Cannon back over the summer, and it's on appeal, but also this case for Trump's alleged efforts to try to overturn the 2020 election. So given the fact DOJ policy says you cannot prosecute a sitting president, expect Jack Smith cases to be done. The last case, and I'll end on this, is that Atlanta case that deals with the 2020 elections. That's a local Georgia case. We've seen over the last year how that has played out with Fonnie Willis, Nathan Wade. That has many problems, many different delays. So the bottom line for my story to all of you right now, Donald Trump's legal problems have essentially all gone away since he won last night. Harris.
There you go. Congratulations, America. Congratulations and good luck. Quiet Storm says, why are Dems always a kind party, especially in these situations? The felon would never. It's heartbreaking. It's true. You are right, Quiet Storm. And by the way, thank you for your support of independent media. I appreciate it. Yes, you're right about that. Now let's go over some things. As we said, we don't want to, just say, oh, well, it's all the Democrats' fault or whatever, but they do share some blame in all of this. Maureen Marfell, thank every day, Maureen. Thank you. You're so generous. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Okay. And how are you doing today, by the way? So let's think about this. And I want to go over some of the points because these are points that I have made and I believe them to be true. I believe, well, some of it to be true, and I'm going to explain. Okay. So let's talk about, this is the postmortem, like the meeting afterwards, where like if you have a show on television, you go over what's wrong. Sometimes we'll just say, great show, good show, let's go home. Or we'll say, what happened here? What happened there? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't this happen? Maybe how can we improve this? What did we do wrong? What did we do right? So why Harris may have lost. Her campaign team. When Biden dropped out, Harris held on to his campaign staff. This is Biden's campaign staff. That may have been a mistake. Several people in her orbit have said. Harris kept in place Biden campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon and other campaign leaders like Quentin Folks and Michael Tyler. Harris had worked with Biden's campaign manager Julie Chavez Rodriguez in the past, but didn't have a track record with others. While Harris had her own team members who merged in, there was a disconnect between the team Biden built and the new candidate they were working with, said Chris Scott, the vice president's director of coalitions. The campaign, as it was built for a different kind of nominee, said Scott, who worked on the vice president's campaign team before she became the nominee in July. It's true. I believe that to be true. I believe that they were too afraid. I believe that they thought that they were working with someone that they needed to be careful with. I don't think they needed to be careful with Kamala Harris. I don't think they needed to run the exact same kind of campaign that they were going to run, with Joe Biden. It was completely different. And I think that they were too arrogant and too safe and too afraid and too exclusive. It was almost like they were running Hillary Clinton. I'm going to explain more. I thought it was like the same sort of Hillary Clinton campaign of 2016. Harris tried to be by the way, I thought she, considering the time that she was in, I thought she ran a pretty good campaign. But we're speaking about advisors now, not about her. Harris tried to be the change candidate, but she didn't distance herself from Biden. Harris was quick to draw a contrast between her and Trump, but hesitated when it came to Biden. It's true. Should have had a sit down, a come to Jesus with Biden and said, I love you. I understand what you've done for me. I understand that you have put me in this position to possibly be the president of the United States, but I have to run a campaign and I'm going to have to not follow you in lockstep on every single position. And at times I'm going to have to criticize the choices that you made. Does not mean that I don't respect you or I'm being disrespectful. I just have to do what I have to do in order to win. She didn't do that. At the beginning of her campaign, she started off with remarks thanking the president for leadership and having the crowd applaud his tough decision to leave the race. Then in an interview on ABC's The View in October, Harris was asked whether she would do anything differently than Biden in the past 4 years. There's nothing that comes to mind, Harris says, but it wasn't enough for someone who was trying to run as a change candidate. Voters consistently had concerns over Biden's handling of the economy, immigration, and Israel's war in Gaza, and Harris struggled to create a new narrative that put distance between her and the president's agenda. 100% right. My friend Sunny Hassan asked the question, and I believe it might be the question that caused a lot of folks not to vote for her. When she said, she didn't say, I wouldn't change anything. She said, nothing comes to mind. That was the wrong answer. The answer should have been, yeah, there are a lot of things that I would change. I'm not Joe Biden. You'd have to go through a laundry list of change. I would be different. I would be different on the border and immigration. I think I would have a stronger immigration policy. Having worked in that capacity to help the nations along the border, there are things that I learned that I would like to have implemented and could have been implemented, I believe, but it was not my position to do it. Now, I don't want to get into detail about that, but I would have changed some things about that. Just simple answers that would have helped. She didn't say that because I think that she felt loyalty to Joe Biden and also to his wife. I think you have to tell people, hey, look, I'm going to hit you. Donald Trump will just crucify you on the campaign trail and then smile on your face, shake your hand, take you to dinner and tell you, I had to do it in order to win. There's some truth to that. Kamala Harris should realize that, should have at least. A delay and disconnect with base voters. This is where my issue comes in, because I believe this is one of her biggest faults, okay? Again, this is a postmortem. I'm just telling you, don't get mad. This is what people do after, whatever, when you want to make things better. Exit polls from the race show that Harris wasn't able to revive the Obama coalition of voters that helped propel the former president to the White House twice. Turnout from key groups like Black voters and young voters was disappointing, and Trump made inroads with Latino and Asian voters. Adrian Shropshire, the executive director of Black PAC, said outreach to Black voters in this election cycle was significantly delayed. Remember I talked about that? Well before Harris became the nominee. She said funding and resources coming into independent organizations like hers in this cycle didn't come until this summer, and it led to several months of not connecting with Black communities. I have said whether the Harris campaign, or whether they want to hear it or not, or they like it or not, they ran her campaign as if she was a white woman running to win over Black and Asian and women voters. As if she was a white woman running to win over Black folks. Like it was, as I said, Hillary Clinton. They did not run her campaign as if she's a Black woman running to be president and who already has a connection with the Black community and should not be treating Black media and the Black community as if it is niche. It should not have been delayed, her messaging to Black people. Black people were already not, the one thing I think that Black people are not, one of the things I should say, that Black people are not happy with Barack Obama about is that they believe that Barack Obama did not do enough to help the Black community when he had the chance in office. That is just the truth. And so they believe, like, why is she treating us as if we are some sort of niche demographic that she's going to have to put out some special appeal for when she is part of this community and should already have been incorporated, or she could have done it without that sort of presentation where it is other, separate, niche. That was a mistake. It was a mistake also in treating Black media as if it is some sort of thing that is separate from mainstream media. As I said, she should have been dropping into Tamron Hall. She should have been saying hello, even if it's just a phone call, to Joy Reid. They were afraid. Oh my gosh, this person is too controversial. This person is too polarizing. What are you talking about when you have Donald Trump in the race saying they're eating cats and dogs? When you have a convicted felon in the race, why are you afraid of Black media? Why are you even afraid of Black media that is, a little bit provocative? What are you afraid of? There's only an upside for you. Why did you run such a careful campaign? Why did you, I'm talking to advisors, why are you running her as if she is a white woman trying to reach the Black community? She's Black. She understands the Black community. She went to a historically Black college. And perhaps it was incumbent upon her, maybe, and I understand that maybe she was a little bit hesitant because of how she got into the race and that it was a truncated time and that she felt like, oh my gosh, I'm a Black woman, I can't come off as this. I don't feel that that was a case. I feel like she should have just taken the brakes off and said, I'm running against a crazy person. I'm just going to go and say, I would have just been out there. Anytime somebody can get in a garbage truck and put on a vest or go to McDonald's, like, what can you do? What are you afraid of? Don't be afraid, people. But anyway, it's over. I'm just saying. It's the economy, stupid. The most likely explanation, however, for Harris, the loss was the most basic one. Americans were deeply dissatisfied with a brutal economy. What they feel is a brutal economy. The economy is, as I said, doing well, but it is a cost of things, goods that are affecting people, and that is economics. That is economics for them, regardless of how good the metrics are of the economy, the levers and all of those things. The stock market, many people don't have stocks, right? They don't have investments like that. After Washington put an end to the COVID era pandemic aid programs, Americans suffered 2 years of sky-high inflation affecting the price of nearly everything alongside higher interest rates, which drove up credit card rates, mortgage rates, the cost of car loans, and more. Amid a punishing cost of living crisis, voters have now punished Democrats when the person who was responsible for it, see how this is messaging, was Donald Trump and his poor handling of COVID. Exit polls and other surveys coming out of the 2024 election are incredibly clear that this contest was as is often the case about the economy, stupid. Those were the mistakes, and people saw them in real time, and they did not address them in real time. They just said, "Oh, we don't want to address that because they don't want to have to deal with it." They thought that perhaps if they didn't address it, that it would just sort of go away. They needed to be, instead of this sort of, like, I think they should have had a cute social media campaign, but as it shows, Gen Z wasn't supporting, did not support Brat Girl Summer and all those things as much as people would have thought. Maybe there should have been a different strategy when it came to Kamala HQ. It was cute and whatever, and people sort of liked it, but did it affect the race? I don't believe so. But I'm not sure. Maybe in some marginal way. But I think that could have been a different strategy of her, as we did across the country, talking to people in those short bursts, getting the message across, listening to folks. Perhaps there didn't need to be such big town halls. Perhaps there didn't need to be such big rallies. Maybe it should have been using the social media for her in front of voters, as we were in front of voters every single day, talking to people, fostering conversations, not trying to embarrass them, going into the belly of the beast, maybe even near the rallies or whatever. I don't know if she could have gotten that with security, but she could have certainly gone and just spoken to people. I'm just saying, this is a postmortem. You can disagree or you could agree. But I think all those things make sense. That's one man's point of view. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not sure any Democrat in this day and age could have gone up against Donald Trump and that machine and that cult following, a machine that makes excuses for everything that he does. I'm not sure that any Democrat could have combated that. And maybe me. So how do I become a campaign advisor or a spokesperson? The Democrats have to stop being so careful. And I mean, usually it's like the Republicans are like, Donald Trump has changed that. As much as I love you, Pete Buttigieg. I love that you go in the belly of the beast. But I want to see Pete Buttigieg let his hair down and stop being so robotic. I love you, Gavin Newsom. I think that you're smart as a whip. You go into the belly of the beast. You're great on conservative media. You can hit them. You can give them facts. But you're a little too slick. Josh Shapiro, I love you. A little too slick. This is going to be controversial for some folks. The same thing for Tim Walz. Great. Love you. A little too much of a character. Hey. But it can all work together if you just, hey, look, I'm Monday morning quarterbacking here, but I'll tell you, I know I've been doing this for a long time, and I know what people are feeling, and I know what would work. They just want you to reach out to them, and the other side wants to talk to you. You may run up against some people who are going to be insulting or whatever. Okay, fine, take that chance. Don't hide. And if you're running a campaign, don't hide your candidate from the American people, and especially the other side. Go take a walk down Main Street with your Secret Service and whatever. Don't tell people you're coming into town. Go talk to people on the street. Go to college campuses and talk to them. And it doesn't have to be in big groups. Put it on TikTok. Go say, hey, look, who are you voting? Are you going to vote for me or are you voting for Trump? Why? What policies? What would you like to be? Young people were not happy about Gaza, too. That's one thing she probably needed to differentiate herself with from the Biden administration. So that is my assessment. You let me know what you think. I know some of you are not going to agree with it, and I don't expect you to, because we are Americans and we can disagree. We can disagree. So I love you guys. I'm going to see you live at 5 o'clock. Thank you. And I'm going to go over now to the folks on TikTok and have a conversation with them. So thank you for the folks. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. You hit the likes if you're joining us on YouTube every day at 10 a.m. and then at 5 p.m. Eastern, where your comments are on. You can join, you can like, you can subscribe. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. because this continues after the election, our show, and we may have to adjust in what we do, but we're going to continue. We're going to continue with the good fight and telling you the truth, whether you like it or not. Okay. I believe that that's best for us, being an informed public and an informed electorate. Okay. So I'll see you live at 5 o'clock on the YT, on the TikTok, and on every platform. Okay. So again, make sure you hit the likes, make sure you subscribe, you follow, you hit the hearts wherever you are. I appreciate it. See you live at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us with the algorithm. And also, we'd love for you to become a subscriber. So hit that button too. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Eastern, so there's plenty of content for you to check out.